Buffering, and we're hot.
And we are live. What's up, everybody? It is April 3rd, and spring game is 24 days away, which means off-season time. It's time to ramp up the off-season Kool-Aid. It's time to dive into some Huskers football. This is the best time of year, the possible best time of year. So we want to jump on and just talk Husker football, talk spring game, talk 24 days out. The boys are coming. Practice is starting. Rail is spinning it. The boys are good. How are we feeling on a Tuesday? What is it? Wednesday, Tuesday night? Feeling good?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think now that Nebraska ball gave it their all, and I think we can safely move on from that and put that as a full-on distraction now that the entire team is leaving. So it's
gone.
You can just say, okay, this is back of the brain. We're moving completely. We're back to football.
It's nice that we even had
and baseball is doing well, which is
baseball's doing well.
Lost yesterday on top.
Yeah, lost yesterday, but they're 20-5 still. Looking at a regional. It's nice to even have, to be honest, like to have like the year-round thing. It was one of the things of like I look at pro sports teams and I always get so jealous of people who are like, oh, when a football season ends, they get to watch hockey and basketball, and when hockey and basketball ends, they watch baseball. And I'm like, wait, all I do is watch football. That's it. Like, wait, what happens?
So and then I watch. Nice. I just watch practices if I'm not watching games.
I watch, and then I watch Dylan Raiola threw at the pro day, and I watched that video 700 times.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Did you watch March Madness?" I was like, "No, I didn't watch any March Madness." Did you see the 18-year-old in Lincoln that was throwing at pro day? Because I watched that.
They tweeted out a 36-second clip, and I watched one. Like I watched slow-mo, but like manual slow-mo, where you like put your finger on and you just like slowly drag it to like watch who's catching the ball, because it's meant to be a really fast highlight. But you can really get a lot of info that way.
You had another one where they showed like 5 of his passes from practice, like that someone filmed on an iPhone, and he was like darting him across. But one of them he threw like off his back foot, and he sort of like faded it. And I watched it like 20 times. I was like, God, Dylan, you got to complete that pass, Dylan. I'm like, he was probably like just literally messing around. I'm sitting here like, complete that pass,
dicking around, and we're trying to gain like depth chart notes from it.
Anyway, all right, folks, thanks for joining. We got a bunch of folks jumping on. This is gonna be a ton of fun. We're 24 days out. We're fired up, as you guys can see. We'll kick things off. We're gonna jump in because we got to talk. We're gonna talk Troy Dannen just briefly. Then we're gonna jump through, and we're gonna get because everybody all sorts of fired up because we are talking wide receivers, we're talking running backs, we're talking depth chart. It is time. We're 24 days out for the spring game. First, a word from our sponsors, Pipeline Jerky. We got some new pictures of the boys, and also the boys are looking good. If you look at the offensive line, anybody who's been at practice, they're huge. They're absolutely massive. They're 6'9" across the board. Prohaska's huge. Ben Hart's big boy. Carl Kern's big boy. We got some new pictures up. Pipeline-jerky.com. Every purchase pays a royalty directly to the pipeline. We're trying to rebuild the pipeline one bag at a time. And also, you guys got to check out our merch, thehuskguysstore.com. We're all rocking it. This is the year. If we die, we die. The offseason national champ shirt is flying off the shelves because we are going to win it this year. This is always our prediction every year is once we hit this time of year, this is when the hype starts to build and build and build. And, Royal is going to continue to look good in practice. We're going to build the hype right now. And the goal is always by August. Right now I think people have us finishing like 7th, 8th, or 9th in the conference. By August, we like to be finishing in the top 4 or 5. We're not going to be 1 because, you have a national champion in our conference, but we'll be top 2 or 3 just because the hype train is going to continue to roll. And then we'll have this championship shirt that you guys will get to wear. So go to huskguysstore.com, check it out. But first topic is the man is in-house. Troy Dannen, this is, kind of last week's news, but we haven't talked about it. And he has been everywhere. And he's been doing great stuff. Andrew, what do you got on him?
Yeah, I kind of dove in a little bit deeper than I probably needed to today, but I know a lot about Troy now. I feel like I know him on a pretty personal level, which is great. I think the biggest thing that stands out about the hire is that this is, number one, it's a football first hire. Like football, it's the front porch of your athletics program. And he, everywhere he has been, has had a full focus on football first. It is not a diss or anything on any of the other programs that we have, and they're having great success, and we all love that. But football is the front porch of the house. It's the curb appeal. He is super involved. This is his fourth year as NCAA football competition committee. He's an executive committee member of the football oversight committee. He is a national voice. 2021 through 2023, he served on the NCAA Constitution Committee and the Division I Transformation Committee. So super visionary guy. I like that about him as well, that he has kind of a little bit more of a national voice and a national pull. That's only going to do good things for Nebraska. Probably the big thing that stood out just in looking into his history is wherever he's been, he's done a couple things very well. And they are two things that Nebraska really kind of crucially needs right now. The first one would be making key hires and overseeing successful football programs. So Tulane, pretty down in the dumps, kind of a doormat, kind of just getting perennially dragged around. They won back-to-back bowl games for the first time in 128 years when he was there. And, he also, then the second thing, fundraising. Don't know if you heard, the little stadium renovation project that Trev left us with.
Alleged stadium renovation.
Yeah, we might. We're either going to have to just rip the contract up or fundraise a lot. And a lot. He helped secure the unrestricted gift in Tulane athletics history. He just going off of a different source, he had an endowment gift that created an entirely new sport at Tulane. $10 million in capital renovations. He saw their licensing revenue grow fourfold. Tulane basketball, football, volleyball set ticket sale records, revenue records, and their annual fund grew by 40%. In terms of donors and 45% in terms of dollars. The same thing happened, though, at UNI, at Northern Iowa, where he was before that. He was voted Athletic Director of the Year. He also had massive donor than they had ever had. They fundraised $27 million in it was called an Imagine the Impact institutional fundraising campaign. It exceeded their institutional target of $15 million. So he went up to 27 million, got a little extra credit there.
So the guy can sell.
The guy can sell. The guy knows how to take dollars from the rich and give to the also kind of rich, but needing more still.
Yeah, so I think he's said all the right things. He's doing the right things. He's got the right background, the right pedigree. I think I was glad that they very quickly moved on from Trev. I mean, that was a disaster on Trev's part of like, I think we've moved on from him, but it's like the fact that he just left overnight to go to A&M is like so pathetic. But
he's something for the record. Moved on is maybe it's more of like we say we moved on, but also we bring him up every chance we can.
Yeah, well, we got stabbed, and Scott Frost just came out. Scott Frost had an article today that everybody like posted like 10,000 times. I'm like, God, guys,
we've moved on from him too, but also if we hear his name,
we've moved on. But if you're gonna write an article on him, there's gonna be 100,000 people that read it every single day. But no, I think Troy's like interesting because he's saying all the right things. He's very quickly burst on the scene. He's attended every single sporting event. He's met with every coach. He's doing all the right things. He's saying all the right things. He's got, I want to win every freaking time we step on the field in every sport. Love that quote. I think these guys come in. I think he's got the right energy. He seems to have the right focus. He's leaning really far into NIL, which I love. Obviously, we love it for pipeline jerky standpoint. We love it from a NIL standpoint. And so I think it's at the end of the day, though, it's like, all right, just give Rule whatever he needs. That to me is what it comes down to is like, I think what bothered me the most about this whole process, it's like, I don't like learning about our board of regents and I don't like learning about any of these people. You're like, I don't like learning about the dysfunction.
Yeah.
I don't like learning about the dysfunction of the University of Nebraska. I don't like learning about the dysfunction of the state or the senators or the governors or any of it. I don't care. I want someone to just give Matt Rule whatever he needs so that we win more football games.
My favorite thought that people had, which honestly, I love Nebraska fans, but they come up with some wild ideas, was people just like, Can Matt Rule can Matt Rule just be athletic director and
Yes.
coach?
Yes. Just give it to him.
Like,
Just
don't
get
you
the
think he's
guy.
a little busy?
Yeah, just get him. No, I mean, I think he's, they play a pivotal role in fundraising and stadium renovations and this and all of that thing. But I think the biggest things for me are like one, make sure that Rule has whatever he needs, get him, the NIL support that he needs, get him the fundraising he needs, open the doors in all the ways possible to get the right people to give the money to the program, stadium renovations, where there's NIL, whatever it is, make that happen. The next big one, we're probably jumping ahead on this, but I'm flashing this right on screen right away of the big thing for me with like the athletic director, which is like why I liked what you said about him being visionary, is like this football is changing not every like 5 years now, it's changing every 3 months
Yeah.
and changing dramatically. And if you don't have a guy that's got sharp elbows, that is a visionary that can get in there and say Nebraska deserves a seat at this table, you do not want to be left out of this. So this just broke like an hour ago. Stu Mandel saying that a bunch of execs and college presidents want to do a super league, right? 80 schools, pay players, collectively bargain, increase the revenue. And I mean, Big Ten's about to get blown up in the next 2 or 3 years. All the TV deals are going to get blown up. And to me, it's like, all right, is Dan going to have a seat at the table to make sure we're part of the 80? I think Nebraska gives him that, right? They're always going to want the eyeballs. We're always going to bring sold out stadiums. We're always, so that's going to help us. But we also have not exactly been good the last 10 years. So you can see him being like, yeah, you guys sell out a lot of games, but also you're like your school 81, like you're not in there. So that's like another element to me. It's like you got to establish NIL, establish the fundraising, but also like hopefully this dude is like making it happen with whoever these people are that are proposing this type of stuff.
Yeah, that is wild news that just broke. I mean, what's crazy is it's a complete departure from like the NCAA too. I mean, they're ready for just like the clean break and gosh, there have been people calling for this and you just leave it all behind. But you're going to need somebody like Dannen that, I mean, he's on the oversight committee. He has had a natural national voice and been a leader in the space. But I was glad to see. I mean, Rule sounds pretty fired up about it. I feel like Matt Rule is somebody that is extremely particular, like deep down. Some of it I'm sure is just lip service, but like
they're friends.
Think that he sounds very much fired up about this hire, and that excites me as well because ultimately he's possibly the most public figure in this state. He is. I mean, he is. I don't think there's any.
Here's the wild one. Did you listen to his press conference? Like this, I went deep on this. That their mutual friend is Pat Kraft, who's also at Boston College and now is at Penn State, right? And Pat Kraft is friends with all of them. So like Pat Kraft, Penn State plus Dannen plus Rule are all like friends, and I guess Dannen and Kraft are like good friends. Which I selfishly was like, Penn State to me is our biggest variable in stealing away Rule. So I'm like, all right, if we got his best friend here, maybe he won't steal from his best friend if we start winning. When we start winning, yeah. But they go back. Like he knows Rules from like 5-10 years ago. So yeah, I'm sure there's some lip service to it, but I think there's legitimate. Like it's probably good. It's better to have somebody you've known for 10 years than you have no idea, right?
And then you need them completely unified. And I think that they will be. I think Rule's probably pretty easy to work with as long as he's kind of like shares the same vision as Dannen. But so on to the wish list. Top 3 things that you want from Dannen and everything going forward. The place I think you have to start is the stadium renovation, the South Stadium renovation that was proposed. I mean, $450 million is going to close in on, you're going to go up above 500 million. First thought on this is I like the proposal when I saw it. It looked awesome. It looked cutting edge, looked high tech and everything, but this is a massive project. And is the timing right? And can some of those funds be better directed for the football program? I think that that's a huge thing to like inherit a project of that size. And you're the one that has to say, hey, I didn't even come up with this idea, but now I have to fundraise for it. So, like,
Yeah.
it's going to take a hell of a salesman if he wants to go through with that. I would not be surprised at all if some of the ideas at least get slashed, and if some of it becomes more of a let's address what's necessary, because it's a little bit of a miserable experience. South Stadium, there's no concourse. You have to walk down like 900 rows just to like go to the bathroom. There's the students puking next to you. I mean,
Yeah, but
it's
isn't this like the whole reason? Isn't this the whole reason Trev left? Is he couldn't fundraise, he couldn't get it done. It was behind schedule. Like they hadn't
well, that's
gotten it done. Like
that's why
I mean,
it's a
and
huge
he couldn't get it committed. So like I don't know, just shut the whole thing
it's,
down.
it's a huge thing that
Put
he's
it on NL.
put it all. That's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe cut that price tag in half. That would be my wish list. I mean, do the renovations that are necessary, like that are necessary. Make it a little bit more comfortable. Add some, you know, a little bit of technology, whatever needs to be done to kind of get by with this project. But I would hope to not downsize as much as they were going to. I would hope that it doesn't take people's season tickets away forever. Maybe he's the guy that can take Trev's vision and kind of meet it halfway, I guess.
Yeah.
So that would be number one for me.
Yeah. Fair. But
Number two, I think is what you said though, the NIL rift. So what the one thing that I've heard on Trev as far as one of his weaknesses was just maybe not public, maybe not vocal enough, maybe not, you know, full fledged support, I guess, of 1890 being our primary collective. And Dannen comes in and immediately says, I'm going to be wearing as much 1890 stuff as Nebraska stuff. He recognizes the importance of this. And, you know, in my opinion, it's here to stay. There might be tweaks. There might be schools paying players, but players are going to get it paid one way or another. And Dannen is going to be a guy that I think is going to put a ton of effort into that and would probably rather direct some funds that way, depending on how.
yeah. No, I think I appreciate how he's out in front of it. I think that you know, Trev was extremely cautious, and I think he really didn't want to go. He was very like focused on the legal side of NIL, and like there's legislature, you know, there's like a lot of lawsuits happening, legal action happening, all sorts of stuff happening across the country, and
Yeah,
he was kind of just he was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. He's like, you know, he would say that publicly, and I'm waiting for the government to act. I'm waiting for, you know, it's like while he was waiting,
yeah,
everybody else is a million miles ahead. Like the people in the South do not care.
None.
They do not care.
I don't care about a lot of laws, it turns out.
The people in Texas do not care. The people in Alabama do not care. Georgia does not care. And so I think that, you know, and he's in for a rude awakening when he goes to Texas A&M. And you know, when they're like, "Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
we don't care. We don't care about laws here. We don't care about rules here." So I think that, I mean, at least everything that Dan is saying is like, it's just 100 miles an hour. You just got to move forward, and like, you know, the punishment, if there is one, it's like, you know, obviously you want to do things above board, but it's more about speed right now. There are no rules, and there's no one to enforce the rules, and especially if you move to an 80-team league, it's like everybody's just making things up right now. And I think that the issue with Trev was he was just so cautious. He really didn't want to be the team that got sanctioned. And I think because of that, it was like we just moved very, very slow. And so hopefully Dannen can be the guy that, you know, lights that fire.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, respectable that he wanted to do things the right way and all of that. But like right now, there just isn't a definable.
Yeah.
And you got some schools getting punished for some things. You got Michigan getting punished for buying kids hamburgers, and then the others like Texas A&M with a $20 million roster or whatever.
Well, I mean, when we had Dan Lust on a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "There is no, what do you say? There's no top dog in charge. Like that, you know, there's nobody really in charge that's enforcing any of this stuff." And so there's just so many loopholes, and there's so much opportunity to, you know, to do it the right way, but also to like move really, really quickly, get every business in Nebraska involved, and you know, truly raise the money. And so he seems to be the right guy to be able to do it. So I think we need to leave it at that, and then I want to talk players. We're 20 minutes in. We're just talking about Troy Dannen. Give me the players.
I think he's going to be awesome for Nebraska.
We're talking about these guys? Are you kidding me?
That's a lot of stars. It's a lot of stars.
I mean, I don't look at this. This team is not. We're not going to lose ever.
Okay. How could we?
let's structure this a bit. Do you want to talk chasing three first before we dive into this? While I put this on the screen, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
check your
yeah.
thoughts on this.
I don't have too much to say on. Well, I do have a lot to say on chasing three, but I mean, first of all, a quick shout out to like our media department, whatever you call them. It is unbelievable that I am watching a docu-series that is happening in real time of off-season Husker football. I mean, it is very well done.
Yeah, they're killing it.
And the number one thing that like I keep taking out of these behind the scenes looks is the full-fledged, like unified cultural support, I think, of these players and coaching staff. And I like to think Dannen again fits into that vision. But like right now, what you're seeing is it's all about Rule right now. I mean, he seems to have taken like this correct CEO type approach. And in the series, you get family members on, you get players on, you get other coaches on, and there is kind of this level of mutual respect for the process and the building of the culture that's going on that I like. I don't. I think that we thought it was there with Frost. Admittedly, I did. With Riley, I think we all thought we were just like playing patty cake on the side, and I don't think there was ever a moment where anyone was like, "This is going so good." And then, I mean, with Bo, I mean, you definitely knew that like the culture was like tough, hard nosed football, and I think we're getting back to that, and hopefully with a little bit more focus on just cleaning things up. But you see that in these behind the scenes deep dives, and it's awesome. The other thing was just is the support of the players doing other endeavors. I feel like you might not see that at every school. So Nash going to wrestle, which is just like an absolutely banana sport. I would never let any of my star players go do that. But for Rule to support him doing that, Jeremiah Charles, Jalen Lloyd going and actually
Yeah.
get top 5 in Big Ten in track events. I mean, those are phenomenal athletes that wanted to come to the school for multiple reasons, and he's letting them shine. And this is the first time they've really kind of that we've seen that, I feel like, in a while. So that's just another cool part of the Chasing Three series.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it is an interesting to draw like the connection point. I think that the Frost thing was kind of coming back to me because that article that just came out today that I don't know was talking about him that I would agree. Like we all thought he was putting in place. He was basically trying to put in place like the '90s mentality. Like, it's kind of like the hard nosed, tough guy mentality. And whether that worked in today's game, obviously it didn't. But they also
to practice to implement that, and that was
you have to not wear. Yeah, you have to show up to practice. Step one, get to practice on time. Step 2, call Dylan Raiola when he's in your hometown and show up to meet him. Step 2. But it does look like everybody's having fun. That to me is like the culture, the momentum, like it appears like a legitimate family. Everybody's having fun and they're like legitimately bonding together. And I think that's pretty cool. And the fact that we haven't had this, like, I don't know, that I'm sure I'm going to bite my tongue because I know the transfer portal is going to like kill us at some point, but like, we haven't had like this crazy mass exodus of like big time players over the last year, really. Which it felt like every single year with Frost is like, God, Jesus, it was like,
yeah,
it's like, God, Wandale Robinson, like our single best player, like doesn't even want to be here anymore. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with all those things. It's a good mini series. Make sure everybody check that out.
Dive in behind the scenes like that, but let's talk some football.
Let's talk ball. All right, I got myself all sorts of fired up today, which is a dangerous place to go. Because I did my kind of annuals. Like, all right, like let's do a cleanse. Let's figure out who's back on this roster. Let's do a deep dive. Let's figure out who the boys are. This is, just star-studded coming in. Between Raiola, Dowdell, which we'll get into, Carter Nelson, Bricks, Gradney. Like, and the names on here are great. I think exciting. But the way I want to structure this, we'll go one at a time, and I'm going to ask you these same questions that I asked the public and see what your response is. First one: which position group do you think will have a breakout year in 2024, and why? The answer from the public, after 1,000 votes from earlier today, the wide receivers. Everybody's pretty fired up about the wide receivers. Very warranted. Tons of good ones. But what's your answer?
Okay. I would actually so it is a really hard question because I think our running backs are gonna be very good, but the receivers are going to go from, like, hardly existing to a very positive thing.
No pulse.
Running backs are gonna go from they were pretty good to
Do
even
better.
better,
Yeah.
and so I think that, like, if you phrase it that way, then it is wide receivers. Um, but I do think that as a whole, our running back crew is it might be the best position group on our team. I
Yeah.
I
It's like
make
two
that
different, yeah, kind of two different ways of looking at it. It's funny that I was looking at the as I was looking at the wide receiver group and getting all fired up about it, I glanced back at the stats from last year. And
yeah,
then I remembered that we're in off season mode and we're full steam ahead, full Kool-Aid. I was like, no, stop looking at those. Stop looking at those. I mean, it's just carnage. Just
yeah.
absolute carnage in the wide receiver room.
So, I mean, for the running backs, though, you have a lot of returning snaps. Ramir Johnson is he feels like he's been here 7 years. Um,
I think he has been.
uh, actually, maybe. Gabe Ervin, I mean, obviously, when he's healthy, like, we know what he's capable of. We're just waiting for him to be healthy. Dowdle, I mean, this is a consensus 4-star, top 10, running back in his class. And then Emmett Johnson, I don't think people were ready for him to look as good as he did, but to
Yeah, they look
jump
great.
as a true freshman and do what he did last year. I mean, he's also, Mr. Football in Minnesota. Like he wasn't as heralded of a running back, but that is a very solid room. And then Quentin Ives is kind of nipping at their heels there a little bit, and he's actually getting like a lot of spark and a lot of um, he's getting a lot of talk already this offseason as well. So I think that's a solid room. But the receivers, I think this is one of the most like incredible, like, I can't even reframe my brain yet from last year. I'm trying to be where you're at, but I was I'm looking through our list of options this year, and it is downright shocking how many weapons are currently on the roster at receiver. And then I think back to last year when it was like yeah, Alex Bullock was our best receiver, and I was like, "How did this happen?"
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's now I'm like looking at it again, which is just like, yeah, it's like I'm getting waterboarded, just like looking at this list. But yeah, it's like I guess you almost needed Rule to have like one full season to like get things under him. But yeah, I'm looking at our list is like Billy Kemp, Fedoni back, Bullock, Josh Fleeks,
Solid.
our fourth best receiver at 8 receptions.
Like
Like
had to become a running back at one point.
Fleeks and Marcus Washington,
Washington dead.
Mal Coleman had 8 receptions. I mean, we only had 3 guys with double-digit receptions. Just a disaster. But all of it's null and void of like even these guys on this list. There's actually some pretty good talent on this list. Like I would say Billy Kemp with Rayola
Sure. Probably could
catches
have come
70
off.
catches 70 passes, right?
Right.
Like Fedoni with Rayola catches hopefully 50 passes, right? Like these Marcus Washington's talented, Mal Coleman's talented. Jalen Lloyd would average 40 yards per catch, but he only had 6. So it's like, I don't know, maybe we should throw him a ball.
Like 6 catches. Yeah, I think he had like 3 touchdowns on like less than 10 catches.
I mean, unbelievable. But
Yeah.
that to me is where it's like that you feel there was no talent, not no talent last year. There was talent last year. We just had no one to throw to him because there's just the carnage of the quarterback position,
I mean,
which is why it's like not only we've upgraded the wide receiver room, but you're also like have someone to throw to. And that changes everything.
yeah, I think that we did a good job adding pieces that fit. It's another thing that going back to the chasing 3, they're always looking for players that fit. And Jamal Banks, they they actually like talk to his family and stuff, and that I think he is a sneaky, fantastic addition. Like he does not drop the ball. He was very good at Wake Forest. He was kind of a high 3-star receiver. There, he's going to be good. But just running through the list, Jamal Banks, Mal Coleman, 6'4", can fly. Sky is the limit. Isaiah Nair, kind of an injury bug type, but like was a huge playmaker back at Wyoming. That to the point where you transfer to Texas. Like obviously they believed in him as well, and it didn't work out. He got buried on the depth chart after injuries. Demetrius Bell, 4-star, somehow last year, along with Jaden Doss, also redshirted. Also, high 3-star, 4-star receiver, huge for depth. IGC still in the program.
Back, yeah,
Isaiah Garcia,
still good. Still good.
Janarin Bonner, he's back at receiver as well. Huge dude. Alex Bullock, Mr. Trusty. And then you add a whole bunch of talent at that position at true freshman that I don't even know if they're going to have room to see the field, but like they could. Davon Hall, he's a 4-star. McMorris, Ja'Cory Barney can absolutely fly. Quinn Clark is 6'5". Keelan Smith, and then Marcus Washington potentially could come back if he gets a waiver. They're still waiting to hear on that. So that, if you're counting, is 14 Division I wide receivers. There's no excuse to not have enough weapons this year, barring any devastating transfers that may happen. I am absolutely sure that one or two from this list will, because that's just a lot.
Yeah. Well, so to dive in on this, so I put this up earlier, and I like to always put these up to see where the fans are at, but also where the comments are at. So we'll start wide receivers, and we can shift back to running backs. You just said, for those not watching the live stream, who will finish the season with the most receptions? Question being, is it Banks, Nair, Coleman, Fidone? Banks won 41% with a landslide. Fidone at 31.5%. Mal Coleman at third. But then the number one person that we got comments for, so I thought I had a picture of him, but who is that? Jesus, where's the? Never mind. Well, Banks was like, everybody's blowing up on. I think the funny thing that Nebraskans always do is we always love the new guy, because everybody sees Coleman very well could be wide receiver 1, but like a new guy comes in and it's always like that guy's, that's the guy that we want.
But he's trusted. He's true. I mean,
he's good.
He's very experienced and has like fantastic hands. I just think that he's going to be extremely reliable. And like somebody like Raiola is, I mean, I think a true freshman is going to have some jitters. There's going to be times when he's just going to be locked in on who's wide receiver 1. It's just here it comes.
That's what I was trying to say. So the number one person that people commented on after these 4 names was Demetrius Bell. I got there's 40 people that commented like Demetrius Bell is going to have a breakout year. Demetrius Bell. So love it. He must be making waves if that many people are calling him out. And then Jalen Lloyd being the second. And so, I always feel like the fans paying close enough attention are like, all right, so you got these 4, you got those 2, plus all the names that you mentioned. Who is your answer for who's going to finish with the most receptions?
I didn't even put Jalen Lloyd in my list. That's 15. Okay.
Yeah, 15. He's there.
My answer is Jamal Banks, because I think that he's going to slot in perfectly. He's a big body, very experienced. I think that he's going to be that kind of sure-handed, experienced senior guy. He's basically like a bigger version of Billy Kemp. He's not someone that's going to blow you, but he runs pretty good routes and he catches everything thrown in his radius, and that is absolutely what this passing game needs. I like to think of Coleman. I mean, I think of him as more of a kind of a downfield vertical threat. Same with Jalen Lloyd. Both of those guys can just absolutely fly on the outside. And then Nair, I think, just ends up going kind of more of I want to put him more like second string. And then Bell, I think Bell is going to be fantastic. Yeah. I would actually put pretty good money that of all the players that redshirted or are newcomers, he's going to be making a name for himself this year.
Yeah, I think Bell seems to be a consensus across the board. A lot of fans, and you can see Kale. Thanks for joining us tonight, Kale. Is saying Bell's going to be pretty good, which is I love to hear the buzz behind some of the guys that are coming up that you haven't seen. Banks seems to be a guy that everybody likes. I think if he comes and has the type of year we hope he has, it's like that having him at tight end. He's a 4, almost 5-star coming out and just has the double knee surgery. Had a great season last year, but again, he's catching it from a tight end. We had a tight end throwing passes last year, so you'd like to think that. What do you think about Mal Coleman? Where does he fit in?
Yeah, well, I agree with Kelly Sterling. Mal is definitely going to keep blowing up. I mean, he is. If you look at his just raw measurements, which it's it's NFL Combine season. This is the time when NFL fans start salivating over measurements and all of these numbers and what's their ham size, what's the radius of his thumb, and uh, Mal Coleman fits every NFL measurable. Like he just needs to get better as a receiver, but physically he's as gifted as any receiver as that we've ever had. He was a track stud in high school, and he's 6'4", and he's like 220 plus pounds. I mean, he's a huge dude that can absolutely fly. He just needs the ball, and it's all about route running. I think last year we saw him get better and better at blocking on the outside, which is just going to get him more playing time. But I think he's going to be a solid number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, again, it's hard to even look at last season's numbers and make any judgment on him because now you actually have a guy that can throw the deep ball. And so when you get Coleman out there and you're just like, hey,
I don't want to get fans too riled up and too aroused when I say this, but I think Rayola's going to throw the first pass 80 yards in the air, and it might punt completed, but just wants to just show it off, and let's just see how Coleman can catch it.
This is like so bad, but like the spring game is going to be chaos. Like even seeing him in practice wearing Husker gear, I would say like I know he's like on a team, but I'm like I've been
Swifties following him around.
It's been like a 3-year thing with him of like thinking we had him, and then he went to Ohio State, and then he decommits, and then I thought we had him, and then he went to Georgia, and then decommits, and like it's been this 3-year thing. And to see him in practice, and like to see him at the spring game is going to be nuts.
It's the best.
Nuts. And the fact that I've been getting fired up about his pro day, 4 passes that he throws. Like, what happens if he actually like completes a real pass in the spring game?
It's crazy. It'll
break the internet.
It feels like the fans are like dating him or something in a weird way. It's like he's back. We finally got him. Like, I'm just so excited to go forward in our relationship. This is great.
Oh, man, yeah, you just hope it goes well. But it will, because look at his talent. I mean, now he's got people to throw to.
Well, he's got to tight ends too. Speaking of Fedoni, like I think that's actually another position group of
deep. It's deep.
It's solid. I think Nelson comes in right away, and he can be an absolute difference maker. I think Fedoni ends up being your 1. Nelson probably 2 with Borkercher is a solid 1, 2, 3 option. And then you end up getting Ian Flint and Isaiah Smith Flores. They're kind of more going to end up being depth pieces, possible redshirt options, but that's 5 on your roster. And that's a solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Carter Nelson, if he lives up to the hype,
he's a pretty darn good athlete.
Fedoni part 2.
Yeah.
And Fedoni part 1 is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I like where that position group is at.
Yeah, I mean, Borkature can catch. I mean, it's a good group of senior laden guys too, which you love to see. God, I cannot believe I'm looking at last year's. I mean, after Billy Kemp and I don't know, I'm doing this. Alex Bullock and then just like Ty Hahn was the guy we were throwing to consistently that played. Ty Hahn played out 12 games. Like, what are we doing?
Ty Hahn, thank you for your service.
Yeah. What happened to Jeff Sims, by the way? Did he just disappear? Is he just gone? Like, what? Where is he right now?
He went into hiding.
Have you ever seen a guy go from like
a career in public relations? I don't know.
I just spent all of like 9 months of the offseason being like, this guy's the next coming, and he's going to be the best like dual threat quarterback in the country, and then like he just disappeared. He just like doesn't exist anymore.
Coaching Pee Wee football.
Yeah, it was. I've never seen a college player like disappear after being like a Power 5 quarterback like that. Anyway.
Sad.
Okay, let's go back to running backs.
Sure, yeah.
Who's going to lead the team in rushes in 2024? Kelly Kale. Make sure you hit the comments too. The winner. So again, the new guy wins every time, which like cracks me up. Like every year, every single time, the new guy like always gets voted. Like because you haven't seen him, you're like, I don't know. He's like, I think he's going to win. So I guess so. For those not watching the live stream. The question is, who will lead the team in rushes in 2024? Dowdell. Is it Dowdell? Dowdell.
Sure.
Dowdell. Dowdell, Gabe Irvin, Emmett Johnson, and he Dante won 46%. of the vote after almost 1,000 votes. Emmett Johnson finishing at 29%, Gabe Ervin at 24%. Which, hey, I think he has all of the packages to be good, but I do think there's an element of, Emmett Johnson's got 1 year on the playbook under his belt, and Gabe Ervin's got 2-3 years of college football ahead of him. So it's like, do you start, because he's basically a true freshman. He only played 1 season, right, at Oregon?
Yeah.
So he's effectively like a redshirt freshman. So that to me is the big question on him, is like, is he able to handle like a Big Ten workload, or do you have a workhorse like Gabe Ervin and Emmett Johnson, or a 3-headed monster that goes at it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in his senior season, he rushed for 2,165 yards, 31 touchdowns. He averaged a ridiculous 8.4 yards per carry as a senior in Mississippi, and 166.5 yards per game. So, I mean, well, he did it in Mississippi, that's for sure. But no, he's also just I'm a little skeptical just because he's a big back. Like, he's at least on the website, he's weighing in at like 230.
Yeah.
And so he's
good for the Big Ten, though.
Supposed to be like a nice, like, bruising back and stuff. But I think it's a little bit of it's just going to depend on kind of the style of play that we're going to do. Like, is he going to end up being, a third down type back, and then you give Gabe the ball for second down, like that type of setup? I really have no idea, but I can definitely say that he is. I mean, he's a top 10 running back recruit in his class. He has all the tools. He's a big bruising back that, you're right, will be perfect for the Big Ten. If he's somebody that if he lives up to the hype, he's starting day one, I think.
Yeah, I think coming back again, it's
Urban. Yeah.
If we learned anything from last year, it's like, holy cow. I mean, all these dudes got hurt. Anthony Grant got hurt. Emmett Johnson got hurt at one point. Gabe Ervin got hurt. Like, Fleeks got hurt. Ramir got hurt. It is a bruising conference. It's like, is 3 enough? I don't know. We need, like, how many do we have? Did you count how many are on the roster? Like, we need 12.
Ramir and Quentin Ives would be the other two not listed on.
Yeah, Ramir's interesting.
You got about 5 deep. Quentin Ives is just kind of unproven. Ramir's solid, but he's a great pass catching back. So, I mean, they bring different skill sets, I guess is my point. I think Dowdle, based on just what you've heard from the past, like recruiting profiles and everything, he seems like he's probably the most complete back. But yeah. And Kale, I mean, brings up a good point, says don't sleep on Ramir Johnson. He's explosive, has stuck with the Scourge for a long time. I love Ramir for the fact that he's still here. He could very well be elsewhere. Like, he very well could be elsewhere. And I think he's a great pass catching back. I think he can definitely get us big chunk plays, and he has in the past, and he's proven himself. He just he's never been the guy that has carried the full workload. And I'm not there at practices to necessarily say why that's the case. But they seem to think that Gabe is a better true rusher, and the last two season openers, I guess, has been Gabe, starting day one, and so I think it gives him.
You go back to his early days. He's a Georgia kid. He's a tough kid. He just had injury problems, and it's just a bruising conference.
Yeah,
he can play. But again, I mean, this all comes back to like the quarterback situation of like, if Rail can live up to the hype, and if he's throwing the ball the way that we think he can throw the ball, and it takes the pressure off of all of these different components that they aren't putting 11 guys in the box in the Big Ten, we just have no chance. Like, there was no threat of throwing the ball last year.
Not really, no.
So, like, how can you
the fact, like, the deep passes against like Wisconsin and Purdue, they treated them like trick plays. They were like, holy shit, they're throwing. Oh my, they threw it. They did it. They actually
and
they completed it. Oh god.
So it's like the fact that Emmett Johnson had any carries at all, like, for positive yard. You're like, wow, you did that against a 10-man front. You had a 10-man front, and you had no wide receivers, and Alex Bullock was split out wide, and no one guarded him. And so you just sort of you're just like, nah, you're good. He's fine out there. Don't worry about it.
He's fine. I give him a 10-yard cushion.
You're fine. Unless they throw a bounce pass to him, then like maybe we'll get something going. But the boys are good. So I feel good about that. I mean, those are two
Yeah.
good groups. What other questions that I asked that I thought were pretty good? It was good to get the pulse of the fans on these. Yeah, back to that. It was an interesting discrepancy of like who's going to finish with the most receptions was Banks,
Yeah.
and then which receiver you're most excited about is Mal Coleman at almost 50% after 2,600 votes. He's a fan favorite. He's a homegrown kid. He's a great kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Banks second, Nair third. Not a lot going with the other. I mean, the others are a lot that we mentioned, like Demetrius Bell and a lot of the other guys that seem to be popping up. But yeah, I think everybody so badly wants Mal Coleman to succeed. But that'd be a cool story. I mean, you got Mal Coleman plus Rayola playing well. Like that'd be two guys who are pretty beloved here if they can pull that off.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah. And honestly, Lloyd too. He's from our backyard as well. Like, I love that he came here. He was actually Nebraska was like one of our first offers to Jeremiah Charles, and then Lloyd was kind of one of the first that, or he said, at least in this Chasing Three as well, that he was kind of considering us first and foremost too. So it's cool to see those guys bud together.
Yeah. So this is what I put together. Rayola to start. Dowdell plus Emmett Johnson is like kind of your 1-2.
Interesting.
Mal Coleman, Banks, Nayor. I don't know. That's probably I was getting the reaction to these three was like they're all 3 or too tall. You need to mix in like a Jalen Lloyd or
or too tall.
Yeah, they're 3-3. Like all three of them are like 6'4". So they're like basically need a slot receiver, which I'm not actually the offensive coordinator. I just run a Twitter account that has a lot of followers. So it has like, I don't actually, no one's actually going to take this.
It counts for a lot.
Tight end, down. And then these dudes. So I guess this could shift a little bit into these guys. So, shout out Pipeline Jerky. Everybody buy your Pipeline Jerky, pipeline-jerky.com for all your needs. We've been working closely with these guys. They're great kids. And there's something that's been happening with the line that I'm sure people will start to talk about it. They've been around a long time. And it was something that Frost never really had. They were always young. I just felt like every single year of Frost, it was always like a super young, inexperienced line that kind of just never, we never had like that 5th-year senior line of guys who started for like 5 straight seasons that I feel like Minnesota always has and Iowa always has. Yeah. We kind of have that now.
Got it. It's going. It's happening.
I mean, Benhart's got 41 starts. Corcoran's got 30 starts. Prohaska's, been around 3 years now. Lutovsky started a bunch. Ben Scott's in his 5th year starting. And they're big, right? So Benhart, I was like writing these down. Benhart's 6'9", 315. Corcoran's 6'6", 310. Prohaska's 6'10", 325. Lutovsky's 6'6", 320. Ben Scott 6'5". So like big dudes. In particular, Benhart and Prohaska being 6'9", 6'10" at the tackle spots. These are big dudes. They're experienced. They've been around. I know they get hammered. I know they get hammered by, everybody's like blames the line, but like experience helps. Experience like helps a ton. Size helps a ton. Big people beat up little people. And so I don't know. That's where I'm kind of like, wait, we don't have so much. Like these are 5 guys that we all know.
Yeah, I think like part of it too is, what about the fact that these were pretty heavily recruited guys too?
Yeah.
And like there was a point in time when we were raising them, and all it's come down to is a lack of development. But if you're trusting in the coaching staff, and if you're now trusting in the Rayola family, including Donnie Rayola, then you're probably sitting there saying, okay, maybe they all deserve kind of a second and third chance here as well. Benhart was so bad at one point in his career. I mean, so bad. But he became pretty reliable, like towards the end of the last season especially. And Corcoran as well. I mean, he is not without his faults. Prohaska's, not without his faults, but he's an NFL-capable tackle as well. And then you've got like some young guys coming in that, again, shout out to Donnie Rayola, that I think are gonna be pushing these guys as well. Like Grant Bricks is a huge get. Gibson Pyle, I have no idea how he does not have a 4th star. Gunnar Gatula, he's another huge body. Preston Tamua, there's another 4-star for you. And then you add Mazuka. It is Micah Mazuka. I have that listed as one of my off-season twists that I was not expecting. It's spelled Mazz.
You pronounce it? No way.
Cua. and it's pronounced Mazuka. I
No
heard Brian
way.
Jefferson say Mazuka, and it's spelled Mazkua. And I was like, does he not know? Is that there's
There's
somehow
zero chance anybody in the history of reading that name has ever said that right the first time.
Mazkua pronounced Mazuka? And yeah, I was so thrown by that. I was like looking up if there was a new player that I hadn't heard about. But he's a senior transfer from Florida. He's bringing a lot of starts. He's going to push for some time as well. And then you also have like last year's newcomers, like Jacob Hood is someone that no one talks about.
Yeah.
And I, frankly, because no one talks about him, I have no idea where he stands.
Yeah.
He's
Big dude.
6'8", 350 pounds.
It's a big human.
6'8", 350 pounds is a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Like
He's a
he
large
needs
human.
to get on the needs to develop. That guy is an absolute mountain. So I feel much better about the line, I think, than I have in years.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think because the one thing we didn't talk about, I mean, the injuries crushed these guys last year. I mean, obviously, like Prohaska had injury, Turner, all these guys battled through injuries. So having Bricks and Pyle, like Tula, Mazuka, that's insane. That's how you say his name. And Hood, like the depth is going to be massive. The depth, like it. If we've learned anything from being in the Peg 10 every year, it's like if you have anybody that makes it to the Iowa game, it's like a miracle. It's like I feel like
it's like going the distance of a war.
Jeez, I mean, I feel like every Iowa game, it's like, okay, which fourth string quarterback is starting, and do we have enough players to like field on defense? Like Jesus. But depth is good. I don't know. I think this lineup already like feels. Bill Clay is here. Good Lord.
I didn't realize just how many people.
Bill's just raining on the parade. Bill, this is an off-season, high energy.
This is positivity only, Bill.
Positivity only, Bill. We're focusing on the positive aspects of this team.
Away.
We're not going to talk about any of these.
I think we've got an O-line that really likes jerky. That's what I'm coming back to. They really like jerky, and they want more jerky, and we're going to keep giving them jerky and their jerky checks until they keep coming and keep
the
performing.
Boys. Look, they're all coming. They're coming for the pipeline. They're coming for the jerky. They're coming to be a part of the tradition. Actually, Donnie Raiola, he got Dylan here. He's gotten the boys going. He's playing well. So I think all in all, I feel pretty good about this offense, at least heading into spring. It's gonna be fun. Like the spring game is, I freaking love the spring game. I think it's like, it's just like
riot this year.
Yeah, I think with all these like young names, I think you've got Rule's got 1 year under his belt. Hopefully he like dials up some fun stuff for the spring game. But even just having a little bit more content on any of these new players will be fun.
Defense.
Should we talk DBs?
The thing that I just was diving into our roster and just the makeup of it in general. The first thing I noticed, was scrolling through defensive backs for like 3 minutes. There's 30 defensive backs listed on our team, and I was trying to think, okay, the defense last year was fantastic. It was the best we've had in at least a decade, and they kept us in games. They did absolutely everything that they could. If there's 2 knocks, and I mean only 2 that I have on the defense at all, it's that good passing teams kind of passed as they wanted to pass on us. I mean, Michigan, Colorado. Being the top examples there.
I mean, Michigan just ran it down our throats.
Michigan did whatever they wanted, but JJ McCarthy was making out with his girlfriend in between touchdown passes. It was pretty insulting, honestly. But it was our passing defense, and then the final drive of the game. Like we lost to 7 on the final drive, and then we lost a couple games. The passing defense was slightly lacking. Our running defense was unbelievable. So I think the strongest unit on the defense is our defensive line. I think that we got Ty Robb, we got Nash, we got Van Poppel, Lenhart, Judy, Kai Wallen, James Williams came on at the end of the year and maintained a red shirt. He only played in 4 games. Vincent Jackson's supposed to be pretty solid. Then you got Chief Borders. All of them, I think, are going to be seeing snaps. I think that unit should be very solid, which is great. And then linebacker and D-back, I have some more question marks on.
Well, real quick on the D line. So I did a podcast circuit today. I was just like binge listening to podcasts. I thought it was in our Mitch Sherman, who's a friend of the pod. Or at least he's come on the pod. I don't know if we're friends yet. Maybe we're friends. Let's see. The he was saying how like this year, I think it was him, but was basically saying this year we're gonna have another like dead draft, which is gonna suck to like sit through like another NFL draft of like not having guys picked up. But he's like, it should be encouraging to look at next year, Ty Robinson, Nash, like any of these guys who are across the defensive line that we've got 3-4 different NFL guys on the defensive line right now, like whether they come out this year or next year or the year after, like the dry spell of having just like no NFL talent for the entire Frost tenure on the D line is basically going to end with all these guys that we're talking about. I mean, Ty Robinson's definitely going. Nash is, he's definitely going. I would think Lenhart's up there too. Some of these other guys will probably get drafted, but like those three in particular, you feel really good about having some D line or some NFL talent on the D line.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrod and Nash, they held it down last year, and I mean, they held us in a lot of games. Like teams really struggled to run the ball consistently against us. But in terms of like, if we were to throw up another question, being, what's the weakest unit on our defense, linebackers or defensive backs? I'm kind of torn between that. I guess I would say the D backs, I think I would go with. They have good depth, we do, but I don't know that we have like that top end like Fonz Dennard, like Prince Mukamara, like who's gonna be that lockdown dude. Tommy Hill was great. I think Gifford is like an unbelievable solid leader. Buford is great, bringing his brother in, who's going to be great. I mean, Roger Gradney's going to be a stud. Benning's coming in.
That kid Bly Hill's going to be pretty good.
And then Bly Hill might end up starting, but he's a question mark. He's coming from like an FCS program and might end up starting day one. So I just think that you've got maybe like solid players. I don't know that you have like one solid elite dude that's going to lock it down.
Yeah, I think it's a fair criticism of them. I think there's, and again, I'm going to forget the stat, but that we have so many players coming back, and Tony White uses so many different players.
Yeah,
that there's a certain element of like, does it matter necessarily? I think the experience coming back in year two of Tony White system and the way that he rotates through the linebackers and he rotates through the cornerbacks, I would agree. We don't have, that Prince year plus, Prince on the other side of Denver is insane. Like the fact that you had 2 10-year NFL guys out there. Tommy Hill's, he's a player. He's probably not your pure shutdown, but yeah, I'd probably agree. Scrolling through those names, it's like they're just unproven.
Yeah, I think Hill just had like some inconsistencies where he would just like randomly get beat, and you understand how that happened. And then Buford is a solid complement. Like again, they played well. Like the defense as a whole, you really can't take too much issue with them. But if you're getting nitpicky, I think that the passing defense would be the one thing that you'd maybe choose to say, all right, who's going to be our dudes? Who's going to be our dogs? Like who's going to force that key interception like at the in the fourth quarter. And right now, outside of Tommy Hill and maybe Buford, Gifford, like it's tough to say who that guy is going to be that kind of separates from the pack. But we've got a solid pack, I guess.
Yes, I agree.
And then linebackers, So I mean, you compare them to linebackers. I don't know where you're at on them.
Concerned. I think Gifford's going to have a great year.
Yeah.
I mean, everything I'm hearing and learning from him is he's just a gamer. And so I'd like to think that he's going to have a good year, but I think losing. All right. So now I'm looking through like the lineup. So I'm looking at the last year's tackle leaders. So you basically lose.
You lost Henrich. He retired. That was a big one.
Henrich retired and Reimer.
And Reimer was a very big one.
So those two probably give me the most concern, that you lose Henrik and Reimer, and then you're kind of sitting here at some of these guys. Just you need a guy like Gifford, but you probably need like 2 or 3 others that are gonna like plug in that gap. That just I'm looking through last year's tackle list that Reimer to me is probably the biggest gap.
Yeah, I think the thing that gives me hope, I mean, you've got Jamari Butler, very good.
Yeah.
Jay Wright burst kind of onto the scene last year. I think MJ Sherman was kind of a baller. And then Prince Will has like unbelievable possibilities as well.
Yeah.
And then Bullock, I mean, Bullock actually played really
A good
well
season.
when he like announced he was coming back. Like that's a solid, reliable piece. Um, Gosh, now overall, thinking about it, I'm not sure if I maybe I do have more questions at linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Bullock had 27 tackles last year. Gifford had 44. I loved Reimer. He to me is like, Reimer was like that guy that could go sideline to sideline, and he cleaned up so many things. I just don't know who's going to be that. Is that Gifford? Like who cleans up
Yeah,
all of the broken plays, and who can chase down, who can chase someone down, who can
yeah,
make a play like on both sides of the field. I don't know who that is.
yeah. I like Bayer and Dylan Rogers and then Stephon Thompson. I had him initially on a list to have a good spring, and then I just like heard from Rule's presser that he just was kind of individually called out, and he showed up out of shape.
Dang
I was
it.
like, that is the last thing you want to hear when your transfer comes from Syracuse, and he's a linebacker weighing in at 270. It's just like fat and out of shape. I don't know what happened there, but supposed to be very good. So could be a guy that cleans up his act a little bit.
Yeah, I think
That's solid newcomers with Willis McGahee. The fourth, I think they're on the fourth McGahee version. This is the fourth version of Willis McGahee.
amazing. Which that makes me feel old.
and then Vincent Shavers, like that was a big get as well. Like both those guys, honestly, with this lineup, they could push and see some time. So
Yeah, I mean, look at that. I think at the highest level, you got Tony White back, which was
yeah,
certainly no small task. He got an absolute paid.
it's the
You know,
biggest thing we could have done.
yeah. I guess I probably have a rational set of confidence that in him, in the sense that he took scraps and made a great defense. It's just like, hey, here you go. And he just was like, he made a great defense. Now he's got another year of talent, all the talent that we're listing. Does that take another layer up because of that? But he's gone next year. So it's like,
I think this is his swan song.
I mean, geez Louise, like he interviewed for every single head coach
It really
opening in the
sucks to
country.
have good coaches because you're just
Yeah.
scared they're going to leave at any moment.
So I think with a year like that,
Yeah.
with Rule like eyes wide open, that's like, all right, yeah, he's very clearly leaving, and we're gonna like groom him to leave, and he's very clearly gonna go somewhere. Then I think, that gives you like the benefit of being like, okay, I'm gonna groom
I
the
hate
second.
I hate how nice Rule is. He's like, oh yeah, I encourage him to seek
Yeah.
other jobs. I'm like, what are you doing? You
I mean,
should absolutely sabotage his career and make him a Nebraska coordinator forever.
well, it could be like, I mean, look, what if Rule turns into like the Saban of like coordinator whispers, and it's like every hot defensive coordinator in the country wants to come here before they go get like their next head coach job.
That's I really like that. What if?
What a spin zone that was.
I really like that. What if?
Yeah, because it's like, what if Rule's like he's like the rehab guy? Because like anytime anybody's career like goes terrible,
What
like
if it's Nick
Sarkeesian,
Saban? That'd be great.
Sarkeesian went to the rehab school of Nick Saban, and now he's the Texas coach. Lane Kiffin went to rehab school, and now he's the head coach of Ole Miss. And Bill O'Brien went to the rehab school of Alabama, and now he's the head coach of Boston College. Shout out Eagles. But maybe Rule will be like, hey, Tony White, he needed a quick rehab, and he came here. We launched him into the stratosphere, and now he's the head coach of San
Yeah.
Diego State or some like obscure whatever, whoever wants to come calling.
What I could do for you. Who do you think's the biggest impact freshman or biggest freshman that we have coming into the year?
I mean, the only one that matters is Rayola.
After real.
Oh, okay. It's like
Don't sleep on Danny Kamen. I love that he came.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Appreciate it, buddy. No, the season hinges on him starting and being good. Otherwise, like everything we said for the first 59 minutes doesn't matter. I think Bricks, he's a big dude. Bricks is a big dude. He could play right away. I think some of those younger guys, like, yeah, you've got him listed. Like Gradney can play. I mean, any of like those speedy guys, like they seem to be able to like find the field first over the linemen or any of the bigger guys. So, um,
Ja'Cory Barney, somebody random.
Barney's popping up, and a lot of people are talking about him. And I think Rule brought him up in the press conference last week too, which is also like, I don't know, it's one of those signals. But
That's
yeah,
true. I like Bricks to push for some time. I like Gibson Pyle, and I'm cheating by listing Demetrius Bell because he's a redshirt freshman, but
this counts.
he's technically new-ish. I think he could blow up. And then Gradney and Mario Buford. How sick would it be to have Marcus Buford on one side and Mario Buford on the other?
Great.
Talk to me, baby.
Yeah. So look, I appreciate that, Kelly. Thank you for sticking with us this whole show. But the Kalen thing to me is like he's gonna play.
Yeah.
Like if we've learned nothing else from the last 10 years of Nebraska football, is like your backup is going to start. Very, very important game. Happens every single year. A lot of times 2 to 3 games. Harburg started the entire season. It's like, he is going to play.
Yeah.
So, obviously we're crowning Raiola, and he should be crowned because he's the number 1 recruit in the country, but like he's going to get hurt. It's going to happen. Like, I hope he doesn't, but it's football, and like they get hurt all the time, and something bad happens. And like he's going to play. He's going to play in an important spot. So I'm glad we got him.
Yeah.
I was bummed. I get bummed, when the solid backups left. Who just transferred? Who was the quarterback that transferred? Jesus, I'm not trying to blame. Oh yeah, Purdy. Duh. He was never. I was never sold on him as a starter, but I like him. I like him as backup.
Until those first couple of drives against Wisconsin, and then we were all like, "Oh my God, this guy's really good."
That's great.
Yeah. We were all shocked.
Yeah, but he couldn't finish. I think he could. He could play. He played great most of the Iowa game but he fell apart in clutch moments in all 3 final games.
That you would have liked to have had on the
roster. I would have loved to have him as his backup this year, so you don't have a true freshman in Kalen like backing him up, and a tight end in Henrik Harburg.
A true freshman.
What do you think they're going to do with Harburg? What are they going to do with Harburg?
I always thought he should go back to tight end, but now he was third string basically last year, wasn't he? I mean, at one point, and then he worked.
He went was he 5-3 as a starter?
Well, then Purdy was hurt, so he went to like second string and then did first string. But I mean, it's just like Sims was so bad that they like basically turned him into a water boy, and they're like, "Hey, Sims, bring Heinrich some water." He's like, "But isn't that the tight end?" Yep, he's playing quarterback now.
Jeff Sims threw 1 touchdown pass.
Place doesn't matter. Bring him water right now.
How did Jeff Sims throw 1 touchdown pass the entire season?
And it was a bounce.
It was a bounce pass
to him. It was a trick play. So bad. Oh God! But
what a disaster. I don't know. It'll be interesting what they do with Harburg. I mean, because he's an athlete. He could play. He went like 5-2 or 5-3 as a starter. Like,
love to see him like get like these random like almost like a oh God, what's his name with New Orleans? Taysom Hill. Like, I would love to.
He's not that good.
Taysom Hill is also not that good, but he lines up
on the planet.
He just has a ridiculous he's a ridiculous athlete though. That happens to be able to throw. He'll line up at quarterback and just run basically a wildcat package. And then occasionally throws a pass, occasionally catches a pass, occasionally runs the ball. He gets like 4 or 5 touches a game. I think it's like.
All right, really? I totally forgot we had this, and I'm looking for our finishing slide. Wait for it. Okay, we'll finish with this.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta wrap this up. It's only 10 o'clock, but man, we got 1,000 people on here hanging out with us at 10 o'clock. What a time to be alive!
This is
what a time to be alive. This is so all this stuff you want to get really fired up, and I'm just going to talk about this every single day until August because this gets me super fired up.
Oh, spring's eternal.
UTEP Win. I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not even going to look them up. I don't know. I don't know anything about them. I'm not going to look up anything.
80 yards to Coleman, first play.
Win. Colorado. Okay.
Win.
I don't know what happened last year. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen. They lost every single game they played after us.
Yeah,
every game.
It's because we roughed them up.
Okay. So 2-0.
Done.
Northern Iowa.
Wow.
Not going to research a single second of them. They're Northern Iowa. We should beat them.
Revenge game.
3-0. Illinois. Down year last year. Down year this year. Hopefully.
Sure. Yeah.
4-0.
I mean, pretty much down forever, but yeah.
Yeah. Purdue. You're 5-0 in September.
Purdue was ranked as the 18th of 18th team in the Big Ten.
Worst team in the conference. Okay. Rutgers. I mean, look at this schedule. What is happening?
Kill them. Rutgers could be sneaky, but
yeah. Well, for the sake of April 3rd.
For the sake of I know nothing about Rutgers football other than we're going to beat them.
6-0.
Done.
Indiana.
Top 25. At least 10.
Indiana. What is Indiana? Nothing. What is Indiana?
Like? Nothing. No.
I don't even know their coaches.
They had Michael Penix like 5 years ago.
They did. Congrats. 7. Ohio State lost. 7-1. But if you start, can you imagine?
Timeout. UCLA 8-1.
But focus on this.
UCLA is
imagine. Even imagine 5-7 last year was like our best record since like 2016 or something. Imagine a 4-0 start. Like
sure.
And then a 6-0 start with
my dreams every year since I've been alive.
They will build a statue for Raiola midway through the season.
It's good.
It will be like, hey, I just had my 18th birthday. I'd be like, congratulations, here's your statue. We're 6-0.
Where do you want it?
And would you like me to finish the season? You don't need to. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So, okay. Yeah, what were you? 6, 7, 7-1, right? Being Ohio State. Maybe well. I don't know. But for the sake of being, realistic, if you will.
Realistic is top 10, 6-0.
UCLA. Chip Kelly left UCLA to be the offensive coordinator at a different school. That's how bad that program is. And they promoted a guy who's never coached before. No chance.
Internally, a little panic hire, but
first year in the Big Ten, they're going to get beat up pretty bad. That's a win. So is that 8? Wait, 2, 4, 6, 7. Is that 8? 8 wins.
Yeah.
Bam.
8-1.
8-1. Last 3. Okay.
Oh, could be tough.
Maybe we don't have to talk about them. We can just focus on the fact that we'll be 8-1 and we'll be, just guzzling Kool-Aid.
USC is so bad that they might actually let us in that game. So I
don't know what they're going to do. But they're not Caleb Williams.
Let's hang on to hope there.
I think that the hope on UCLA, USC is I'll have to study their schedules. I hope that hopefully they play, I don't know, Iowa or Wisconsin or Purdue and somebody or Minnesota and somebody just beats the hell out of them. Yeah. And so, because you're talking November against USC, their first year in the Big Ten, and hopefully they've played 7 straight games. Oh, I'll have to pull up their schedule, but
100%.
But then, and it's for the love of God, can we beat Wisconsin one time?
Oh my! Last year was definitely a great chance to do that. But
you're sitting at 2-4-6.
Iowa always. What I will say is always beatable. Just can't seem to do it. But we've never really been putting these pieces all together.
So I mean, you can see
Iowa with the worst offense in the existence of Nebraska football last year. And they managed to beat us with the worst offense in the history of college football. So it was just,
But that's where you're all right. So, but say you've got some momentum going
together.
Say you've got some momentum going, and you truly are 6-7-1, or you've figured out how to win, and they figured out how to win 6 games, 7 games, 8 games, even more than they normally have. You have some momentum going to Wisconsin, who is struggling like crazy.
Do you want to talk about the playoff now or later?
I'm just saying the schedule is favorable.
It's favorable.
And
I think we can definitely agree, especially the first half of the schedule being set up like that is very nice for a true freshman quarterback. The most important position in all of sports, getting handed 6 games that are winnable. Colorado obviously gives me concerns because they did just beat us. And
Yeah,
this
I mean,
team
well, so
generation can beat us, but
there's
still, like, that's 6 straight games that, like, you might be favored in.
but that yeah, there's the disaster scenario, obviously, which Frost was able to figure out every single year, where you're like somehow we lose to Colorado and Illinois and Purdue and Ohio State, and then the
I'll
wheels
tell you
come
what,
off.
that leaves you dying to coach again, is what that leaves you. When you find the disaster scenario every year, you get an article written that I'm dying to coach again, and no one will hire me.
Did you see in the article it said like 55 new head coaches have been hired and he like hasn't been
He's like,
interviewed? Like,
I can't figure this out. I don't know what happened. Other than being late to practice and not recruiting and also not coaching well, I would love to coach again.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Is it the 16-31 record? Why do people oh
The numbers speak for themselves.
it is, I mean, I will say it's legit. It's crazy he hasn't gotten like a coordinator or like a
Yeah.
quarterback coach or something. I don't know. Like
Yes.
an analyst job.
It's like parents aren't even trusting him with their children anymore.
And if the article like cracked me up because he's like, I'm dying to coach again, but I also don't want to leave
Like,
Phoenix.
he's not even an adult, so
Well, it's like it said, I don't want to leave whatever he lives, like Phoenix. I'm like, okay, so you want to coach high
just
school?
locally. Just locally.
You're gonna coach like little league? Anyway, but that's so he would find if Frost were coaching, Colorado's a loss, Illinois is a loss, Purdue,
Sure.
Ohio State, UCLA. I mean, wheels fall off. But now we have Rule and we have Dylan Rayola, and so everything is better. And it's just a magic wand.
Clean slate, baby.
Clean slate. We don't lose to inferior teams anymore, and it's a good schedule. I mean, Ohio State, obviously, you don't love that, but you don't have Michigan, you don't have Michigan State, you don't have Penn State, you don't have. I mean, UCLA, USC. It's like I don't know what to do with those, but I feel like I'd rather have UCLA than Penn State. I'd rather have USC. I don't know what to do with that one, but yeah, I don't know. It leaves me optimistic.
Sure.
All right, we're this in real time, then we can like wrap this up. USC. Oh yes, dude. That's what I'm telling you. I can't believe this is already April. I'm already this excited about this. USC plays LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin. Oh my God, they're not going to win a single game. They're not going to win a single game. They play LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers. Scroll.
That's
Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, and then us.
They're gonna give up.
They're not going to have any players left.
Just tap out.
If they play, look at that. They play LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State. They're going to be like 1-5.
No, they're USC.
I don't know.
Michigan
playing LSU, Michigan, or LSU, Michigan, and Wisconsin in your first three first, and Utah State.
Probably. Utah State stinks. They'll be okay. That's like maybe 2-2. I don't know.
Okay, LSU, USC, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State. Man, I don't know. All I know is I like playing them late in the season in November. It's at USC. It kind of stinks. I'd like to play them in freezing cold Nebraska in late November, but beggars can't be choosers. Anyway, I don't know. It'll be fun. But this has been fun. We should wrap this thing up. Hour and a half. We're just rolling. We got 1,000 people joining us. All good. Thanks everybody for joining. This has been good. We got more to come. 24 days until spring game. We'll record another one probably next week or the week after. Go Big Red. How about it? Good pod. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Good times.